What's up, Dragon Brood? So, today we're going to have a pretty, I hope, informative discussion and not so much contentious, but I know I'm going to get hate for some of the things in this video and I'm going to apologize. But we're talking about one of those topics that kind of get people, I don't know, you say the word and their hairs and their hackles come up on their back just a little bit. And we're talking about proxies today. And I think there's some spots in some ways to utilize them where they're good and it makes sense, and others where it's a bit excessive. But I'm just going to lay some things out and I'm going to leave that to you to decide. But let's go get into the details first, and then we'll kind of give my opinion on this whole proxy situation. And before we dive into that, if you'd be so kind to support the channel, please remember to hit the like, subscribe, share, all that wonderful stuff. And be sure to check out the join button. For as little as 99 cents, you can support the channel. And I have a partnership with Ultra Pro where they let you save 5% shopping there. So check out shop.ultrapro.com/PowrDragn and use promo code PowrDragn while you're shopping to save 5%. And they'll even give me a little kickback. Okay, now let's establish first what really is a proxy, right? Okay, so here's the thing. We have this, which is a proxy, right? It's written on, it's a piece of paper, it's over another card, it goes into a sleeve. This is an acceptable proxy. Fine. No arguments here. I think we're good, right? Then we have this, which is also a proxy. Now, it looks more like a card, but again, it's a printed piece of paper inside of a sleeve over another card. This, also an acceptable proxy. Now, this one, however, is not an acceptable proxy. These are all three swords of fire and ice. However, this one is just a counterfeit card. And these are not proxies. When people post this stuff and they're saying, oh, well, I just buy these off of some, I don't know, international seller site that's purposely making counterfeits. No, these are counterfeits. These are not proxies. These are bad. These are dangerous for a lot of reasons. And the biggest is that these end up in circulation. I have many times had somebody walk into a local game store and say, oh, hey, I want to trade these or whatever. And they don't realize they have a proxy. And sometimes they've gotten ripped off at a Grand Prix or whatever because they're in a crowd of people. They're trading with folks. They don't have a reason or the skill or the wherewithal to check every single card. Hell, I don't even know if the person who traded it to them knew it was a proxy or a counterfeit, right? Who knew? So now you've got this card floating around. I've even bought collections where somebody's had 4 or 5 of them in there and didn't know it, right? So these are a problem. And yeah, sure, I get it. You say, oh, well, I'm going to get them and I'm going to take care of them and I'm not going to put them in circulation or whatever and it's fine and I'm going to ride on them, whatever. Okay, that's cool. Marketing stuff's great, but understand that a lot of people don't do that. And supporting those sources is contributing to a problem. Whether you like it or not, it is. So I'm just putting that out there. Now, when should we be using proxies? I think that's kind of open to each person for interpretation, right? So let's talk about 60 card formats first, right? Some of us have played in legacy or vintage events where they allow a certain number of proxy cards, usually up to 10, and there's different rules. Sometimes they cost you so many points, sometimes you could pay a higher entry fee per card, whatever. But that makes sense, right? Some of those cards are literally, I was going to say hundreds, but some are thousands of dollars now, and you just can't afford them. But if you want to play the top decks and play competitively in an event, that kind of makes sense. Same thing in vintage. Maybe you want to proxy one of the dual lands you don't have or something, and that's a few $100s. All right, cool, no problem. And you take your choice, right? You could print out a picture of it, you could write on a card as long as it's clear and legible what the card does, nobody cares. Those, totally understandable. They are special events. They are inviting you in to play proxies. They are competitive events, so there's a reason you want to play the top cards. Cool. Now, when we talk about proxies in terms of Commander, we have a little bit of a different conversation because Commander isn't necessarily a competitive format. Now, they do have competitive EDH or competitive Commander, and that is a thing. I don't dabble in it. That's not the way I engage with Commander, but it is a part of the community, and I can get why some people might want some proxies for that. And honestly, I don't even mind if somebody brings a proxy for, I don't know, some rare card that they just can't afford. I don't know, let's say guy is Cradle. right? That's a pricey one. So I get it. Maybe your deck functions much better with a Guy's Cradle in there and you can't afford one and you'd like to play one. Or maybe there's like 2 or 3 cards you're thinking of trying out for your commander deck. You want to play with them a couple times, see how they work before you go invest the money. Good. I'm down with that too. Like, there are uses for proxies. However, and this is where I'm going to get a lot of hate, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to own this, but this is a thing, you're not going to change my mind on it. So if you want to argue till you're blue in the face, fine. Don't be surprised if I don't respond to it. But if you bring a full proxy deck to my commander games, I'm probably not going to play commander with you. And I know that sounds standoffish, and I know that sounds elitist or whatever you want to call it, and I get it. But here's the thing. I have 2 reasons. The first is that I play a form of commander that doesn't need every top end card, right? So you can just play the second or third best card, right? You can go buy full commander decks. There's people selling them on different sites for $20 to $50 if you just need a commander deck, right? So there's no reason to have to proxy an entire deck. There's just not. Like, I can't. I mean, I have been playing for over 2 decades, and I own a reasonable collection, and there's still cards I don't play. I just put something else in there, and that's fine. But I'm playing super casual commander, so it's a different level, and I get that. Again, if you're playing competitively, there are different necessities to doing that. But for playing casually, I don't understand why it's necessary. Now, the second part of why I don't think full proxy decks should be a thing is that you're not contributing to the game or to the, let's call it the ecosystem of Magic the Gathering. And I get it, right? Believe me, I grew up destitute. I'm beyond poor. I get it. But the reality is there is a system that people are living off of, whether that's Wizards of the Coast and their employees, whether that's the artists, whether that's local vendors, whether it's, I don't know, sponsored creators, writers, whatever, right? And if you're not contributing, what are we doing, right? And I mean that genuinely. I'm not asking this as a standoffish question, but like, would we be comfortable playing Monopoly with a bunch of made up pieces? Like, could we? Sure, but it would feel kind of weird, you know? And Monopoly's pretty cheap, but maybe that's not a great example. But you get what I'm saying, right? When you're just printing off and recreating all the pieces, is it even worth it? And let's be honest, I've got a printer behind me that I use for a lot of things, a color printer, and printing off color proxies of cards. I mean, you print off 2 or 3 commander decks, you're going to be out buying another cartridge of ink anyway. After a couple of those, I could have just bought some other commander deck. I mean, seriously. So I'm not really sure the value is even all there necessarily, but I get it. Each person wants to experience a game how they want. Now, that said, that kind of leads me to my Rule 0 video, which will probably be coming in a couple of days. And boy, is that going to be a discussion y'all aren't going to like with me. But honestly, I don't hate proxies. I want that to be clear. I think they are totally reasonable and there is a place for them in the game, and there are times where they make sense. But I do think some of the discussion and discourse around proxies has really just gotten so big, and everybody saying just print off everything and blah blah, like that doesn't even make sense. Like, at some point, if everybody's just printing cards and nobody's playing cards, what do you think's going to happen to the game? Like, I mean, I mean that seriously. Like, at the end of the day, if nobody is making money from the game will cease to exist. That's just the way it is. Does it suck? Yes, but that's just the reality of the world we live in. And I get it. If you don't have the money and that's the only way you can participate, and you have people that are willing to play with that, great. Absolutely do it. But to me, part of the experience and part of the fun and part of the journey is people playing with those off value cards, right? Or more creative solutions. Or just telling the stories of how we acquired different cards or why they're in the decks or whatever. And when you're going and just proxying the whole deck, a large part of the game is gone. At least for me. Now, it's going to be different for everybody. So I'm not telling you my way is the right way. I'm not telling you my opinion is the only correct opinion. I'm just telling you why I feel the way I do and why it matters to me. So, yeah, there you have it. I think proxies have a place. I think they are useful. I think they do fill a need of sorts. but I do think they need to be used in moderation and not just, I don't know, flippantly, I guess. Like, just be controlled about it, be reasonable about it. Let's have some serious discussions around things. Like, and understand that when you're just proxying every single thing, like, yeah, there's gonna be people that just aren't gonna agree with it. And that does mean if you have proxies, you will never be able to play in any officially sanctioned event, and that makes sense, right? Wizards of the Coast produces cards. They're not going to want people playing with fake cards in their events where they promote real cards. So that's just logical, and that's never going to change. Not trying to change that at all. But for fun, your casual games, your kitchen table games, whatever, go for it. I don't think it's a big deal. Again, just discuss it with your table mates, and if they don't have a problem with it, then it's all good. Let it ride. But yeah, let me know in the comments, civilly, like, how you feel about proxies. Have you ever used them? Do you allow them in your kitchen table games? Do you allow them in your Commander games? How would you feel if somebody walked up with some proxies at a side event at a Grand Prix? Or, you know, just showed up with the whole proxy deck. I'm kind of curious how other people feel. Because obviously, like I said, my opinion is not the gospel, and I'm kind of curious what everybody else has going on. But as always, like, subscribe, share, all that wonderful stuff. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.